Hey, it's Jess back with another Misfit Makers Besties tutorial, and this week we are doing the spring swirl. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We upload every Wednesday and Friday, and that's the way to get notified. Check out our Facebook group, Misfit Makers, and if you want to take your business a little further, check out our mentorship group. We have signups on the first of every month. All right, so first I'm going to go in and prep my tumbler so we can get ready to glitter it. This color I'm using is Dark Mint Pop of Color, and I'm mixing just a little bit into my Cool White, which is also a pop of color, both from CCDIY. Now, you could just go in with your Dark Mint, your dark green, but remember it's going to alternate the way your glitter color looks on a darker base. And since my green is a lighter green, I wanted to stay true to that glitter color. I didn't want it to look darker with a darker base. When using pop of color, remember thin coats is the trick. You see here how thin I'm applying this paint. That is the trick. If you go too thick, it will crack. Most of the time with this chalk-based paint, I only have to do one coat. The coverage is great, but if you do have to do two coats, that's okay. Just remember to dry in between. Once your paint is dry, we're then going to go in with our UV resin, which is also from CCDIY that I'm using today, and we are using this as our adhesive for our glitter. I really have been on a kick with using UV resin lately as my adhesive because you're able to move on to the next step so fast. It's very similar to the epoxy method. A little bit goes a long way. So once you get that all spread out around your tumbler, don't forget the butt, then we are ready to go in and glitter. The glitter color I'm using today is Paradise from Peachy Olive. It's a really pretty mint green, almost like a seaweed green, I would call it. It's gorgeous. You see how sparkly it is in my video. You get really good coverage with all Peachy Olive colors. The coverage is amazing, so there's no need to go in and do a second coat. Now, if you have bare spots or if you missed a spot with your UV resin, then of course, by all means, go in and do a second coat. Your cup is not going to die or catch on fire if you have two coats of glitter on there. All right, once we are done and you have good full coverage, we're going to stick this baby underneath our UV light to cure. It only takes me about 3 or 4 minutes to fully cure a tumbler with the light that I'm using. This light you can find on Amazon, and I will link my Amazon shop down below. It's great for really all things, pens, tumblers, everything. But if you're doing a larger project like a tumbler, this light is the way to go because the voltage is, it's just great. So after you let that cure for about 3 to 4 minutes, I then am going to go in with my CCDIY fast set. I mixed 35 mLs and I'm giving her a nice good coat. After this cured, about 2.5 hours, I sanded it down really well, making sure that you sand those rims and clean up those rims. And then I went in with another coat of Fast Set because since we're doing like a peekaboo method, we're going to be using spray paint on top. Any little bump that is on your tumbler will show through the spray paint. So we want to make sure that our cup is very, very smooth. All right, once that is cured, now I'm going in with my painter's tape and I'm putting it at a diagonal swirl, okay? I want the top of my swirl to wrap all the way around the cup so you can see the swirl on both sides, if that makes sense. Like I can see the same line on both sides of my cup. Because I feel like if it's just more diagonal, then it's going to be like a diagonal cup. I'm not going to get that swirl effect. So here I am. I'm using a little piece of painter's tape just as my guide so I can lay my next piece of painter's tape down. But towards the end, you will see I kind of had to maneuver my painter's tape around a little bit to even out my spaces because I did not measure the diameter of my cup. If you want perfect even sections, then that's what you're going to want to do, and then divide whatever number that is to find out how big you need to make each section. Now I just went for it. I just winged it. honestly, you can't really tell that some sections are not perfectly even, or some might be a little bigger or smaller. Only you're going to know. Your customer is not going to know. When you post pictures, videos, you're not going to be able to tell, I promise. So this last little piece I laid down, and then I just kind of shifted my other piece over a little bit to kind of even those sections out. But again, I promise you, just work with it a little bit and it's going to look great. Okay, so after you are happy with the way your lines look, play around with it for however long it takes. Now I'm ready to spray paint. So I'm using lavender spray paint from Rust-Oleum, and I just got it from my local Hobby Lobby. This is actually my very first time using spray paint in a really long time because I live in Missouri and it's cold here, so I haven't been able to use any spray paint for the longest. Now, of course, the day that I want to go spray paint outside, it's raining. So I just made a little makeshift box with my Amazon box because, come on, let's be real. You know I have an Amazon delivery like at least every day. And I'm holding my can about 12 inches away. Ladies, real inches, okay? Not guy inches. A good 12 inches away from your cup. I'm doing small little burst sprays like okay, because you don't want to spray one section for too long because what will happen is your spray paint will run down your tumbler and you'll get those run marks. Now, if that does happen to you, you can acetone your entire cup, wipe off that spray paint, and then wipe it down with some alcohol, let it dry, and try again. But as long as you don't hold that spray paint can too close to your cup, you should be good. Now, after you let that dry, it took about 30 minutes or so, we can go in and remove all of our painter's tape now. Be careful because as you see, like I'm using a little X-Acto knife to pick up the painter's tape in pieces. And if your knife slips, you could scrape off the spray paint where we don't want to remove. So just be very careful doing so. Now, after you get all the painter's tape removed, I did go in with a little bit of acetone and a Q-tip to clean up our lines. So even though we let our paint dry completely, still I just want those nice, crisp, clean lines. We are going to cover our lines up too, but it just makes me feel better knowing that it's all cleaned up and it looks good. So at first I tried going in with like a paintbrush and a little bit of acetone, but my paintbrush just wasn't doing the trick. So I was like, fine, Jessica, go upstairs and get some Q-tips. I'm surprised that's like the one thing I don't have in my craft room. And the Q-tips got it right off. After you are done cleaning up all your little lines, making them all crisp and clean looking, then I took just a little bit of alcohol and a paper towel and wiped where my glitter was, okay? Because even though we took the acetone to it, you might have some spots that just are a little smeary looking or dull. So I just wanted to wipe those clean so they would shine right up underneath our epoxy. So the next step after I am done doing so is it's time to epoxy. You could add your vinyl lines now, but I just didn't want to mess up. If you accidentally mess up and stick your vinyl line where it doesn't belong, and then you go to peel it up, I didn't want to risk peeling up my paint. So I was like, let me just stick a coat of epoxy on there. I also wanted to add a little bit of additive, so I'm adding just a little bit of Sparkle-tastic. It's an additive from the Glitter Craze into my epoxy, and I mixed 30 mLs of Facet. We're going to give her a nice thin coat. You don't need to do too heavy because we don't want our cup to be too thick, and then let that dry for about 2.5 hours. After that is cured, now we're going to go in with our vinyl stripes. Another alternative, if you don't have a silhouette yet, is go to Hobby Lobby and get some washi tape. They have washi tape in every single color you can imagine. So here I have my 3 colors. All of my vinyl is from Vinyl Fun for Everyone, and I actually cut them out in 3 different sizes: thin, thinner, and most thin. I will post down below in the supply list the widths that I used for my vinyl stripes. But Here I'm going in with the green, and I'm adding my green vinyl stripes to the top of my purple stripes on my tumbler. Okay, so just to the top ones, and I'm just following that line. I'm leaving a little bit of overhang at the top, and then there will be a little bit of overhang at the bottom, and we'll clean those up with my X-Acto knife once we apply all of my stripes. The next color I'm going to go in with is my white vinyl 651, and we're going to apply those to the bottom of the purple stripes on the tumbler. So we have green on the top and white on the bottom. And I don't know if you just caught that little dimple, or some of you like to call it a fisheye in your cup. That is totally normal. It's okay as long as it's not on your final coat of epoxy. It's okay. Once you epoxy it again, it'll cover it right up. After you're done adding all of your white stripes and your green stripes, now I cut a little bit of pink holographic vinyl. These are my smallest stripes, and I'm going to add them right in the middle of my purple stripes on the tumbler. So funny thing about this is, after I got all these stripes added, I cut out 4 different decals, like layers and layers of vinyl with my silhouette. I had a cross, I had some flowers, I had the word faith, and I applied them to the cup, and I just didn't like the way they looked. I applied one, removed it, applied one, removed it. Sometimes simple is better, and sometimes you just have to step away to realize that, because if you're like me, I want to add it all to the cup. I'm like, this cup needs a decal. Like, it needs this. But sometimes simplicity just looks nicer. Once you are done adding all your stripes, we're going to go in with our final coat. I'm using medium viscosity from CCDIY. It's a thinner epoxy. We're going to let that turn for about 8 hours, and then we're all done. Make sure you clean up your rims really good. And voila! I hope this tutorial helped you guys, inspired you in some kind of way. I can't wait to see everybody's spring swirl tumblers. And again, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified. And thank you so much to all of our Patreon members. Your support means the world to us.